We're out and about here at BRFM and we're joined with Pam. We're at the old reedbed studios. They've currently got an open studio on at the moment. So what I thought I'd do is catch up with a few of the artists there and find out a little bit more about them. So welcome along to the show. Thank you for speaking to us here at BRFM.
That's all right.
Now, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself as an artist in general, and then perhaps we can move on to talking about your artwork as well.
Right. As an artist in general, I suppose I've probably always been an artist, but, well, I didn't have brain expansion until I was quite a bit older. I went into nursing, first of all, and then I had children, and I always liked art, but, you know, other things got in the way. And then when I was in my 30s, coming on to 40s, I decided that I would like to do something properly artistic. So I went to art college and did a proper degree. I didn't want to do anything part-time.
Right.
But I couldn't go to Canterbury and do fine art because it was just a bit too far away with children. So I went and did ceramics at Medway. And that was a really good choice, and I now do ceramics, but I still love drawing and art, conventional sort of art, so I go and do live classes and I draw people surreptitiously at times, and they do sometimes make their way onto my pots, but mostly my pots are sort of... I
was going to ask, actually, they're very delicate in a way.
They started out as chalices. I used to go to the church when I was a kid, and we're quite a musical family, and you learn a lot of the words in the music, and the music in churches is wonderful stuff, and that was very inspiring. But I also like wind and nature and all that sort of thing. They started out as chalices, and it was talking about earthquake, wind and fire, and listening for a still small voice. And when you throw on a wheel, you have this whirlwind of clay, but in the middle there is a still centre, and that's where they sort of came from. And one of my tutors, David Cowley, noticed me tearing the clay one day and said, "Do you know what you've done?" Because of course it related to the communion where bread is broken. And it all sort of, they came from that. But they've moved on. I mean, they're just sort of evocations of movement. They're very gestural, because people look at my pots and they see things, and they sort of remind them of different things. And there's movement in there. There's still that wind, but there's dancing and anything you want to see in it, really.
I was actually going to say, we were talking just a minute ago, and I couldn't believe it. You've actually been here at the old reedbed studios for about 10 years now working.
Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? But, you know, it's still only the start of... Clay is such an incredible thing. You know, one of the famous potters, I think, Michael Cardew, said that it takes 7 years to become a proper potter, and I think it probably takes another 7 years to sort of finish yourself off, and after that it never ends, because you're always learning and you're always improving, hopefully, on what you're doing.
Now, listeners obviously can't see your work, but one of the ways they can have a look is perhaps by going online to the internet. Do you have a website where they can have a look at your work to get an idea of what it's like?
Yeah. The website for the studio here at Old Reedbed Studios is www.oldreedbedstudios.co.uk. And there are links to other websites. I'm on something called Axis for Artists, which is a sort of nationwide art website, and I'm also on studiopottery.co, I think it is. But if they put Pam Dodds into Google, I do actually come up, because I have to admit I have Googled myself. Yes, but yeah.
Pam, I'd like to thank you very much for telling the listeners a little bit about what you do and your artwork as well.
Great, thank you very much, Daniel.
We're out and about here at BRFM. We're talking to some of the artists at the old reedbed studio. We're now joined with Louise. Louise, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Yeah, hello, thank you, Dan.
Now, I was wondering, perhaps we could start off by talking a little bit about your work. I've just been having a look at it, which I've done over the years since I've known you. Can you tell our listeners about it and what your work is?
Yeah, I mainly work with clay. I'm a ceramicist, and I actually look at discarded forms, banana skins and apple cores, and I like to make an art feature from these. So something that's discarded that you wouldn't normally make an art piece from, generally. So that's what my work's generally about. Quite quirky, quite fun. Some people look at them in disgust and think, well, I don't want a rotten banana skin at my on my sideboard. But then some people actually like the humour about the work and the novelty value.
Now you use, I suppose, I hope this is the right word, a smoking effect. How do you achieve that?
Yeah, the apples and bananas, pears are all fired in an electric kiln, and then I actually place them in a big bonfire, which has got leaves, sawdust. I use all sorts of things, with onion skins, seaweed, get some great effects with seaweed, and create some lovely patterns on the actual smoke fire pieces themselves.
So, Louise, what inspires you, and how did you get started working in ceramics?
So I did a degree at UCA. Well, when I was at UCA, it was Kent Institute of Art and Design, and that's when I did a degree piece, and I actually made a 3-foot apple core. And I really enjoyed making that, and then I got really positive response, so I started actually making smaller pieces for individual homes. So that's really how my sort of inspiration ideas come around, and probably the fact that my dad's actually was actually a greengrocer, so I've actually been brought up in the fruit and veg trade as well. So
now, if our listeners would like to see your work, do you have a website they can go along and have another look at it?
I'm currently not actually on any websites now because I'm actually teaching, but I make it's more of a hobby, to be perfectly honest with you now, Dan, and you know, something I really enjoy doing. I just make a very small selection of work now. But if you do want to see my work, then it's actually on the old Reedbed Studio website itself.
Okay, Louise, thank you very much for speaking to me and telling me all about your work.
Thank you very much, Dan.
So we're out and about, and we've been talking to some of the artists at the old Reedbed Studio. We're joined with Nicola now. I was wondering if you can tell us, or our listeners, about your work.
Right, well, my work is to do with the lost art of letter writing. When I was at college, I was looking for some inspiration. I was looking around antique shops, and I found an old letter written during the war, and it made me think about the fact that we don't really write letters anymore. It's all emails and texts and things. And they used to, during the war, they used to communicate. That's how they communicated, like that. And I thought it'd be nice to design a collection that people could keep and give someone that was to do with, had something sentimental. So I've designed this collection called Lost Words, and it's made up of letters, random letters that spell out lost words.
So what materials do you work in?
I work in sterling silver, but I design the pieces using computer-aided design, and then I send the files to a company, and they print them out in wax, and then they cast them into silver for me.
So what I've been doing actually is asking the artist, do you have a website so our listeners, while they're listening to this, can perhaps have a look at what your work actually looks like?
Yes, I do. It's nicolacrawford.co.uk.
Nicola, thank you very much for speaking to us and telling us all about your work here at the old Reedbed Studios.
Thank you very much.